They say love blinds you. I never believed that, until the night my son poured me a glass of wine, and I knew, deep down, it might be the last one I ever drank. It was a Tuesday evening. The house smelled of rosemary and garlic, and Andrew was already in the kitchen, humming as he stirred the sauce. He smiled when I walked in, the same boyish grin he had at 16. "Dinner's almost ready, Mom," he said, holding up the bottle. "I picked up your favorite Cabernet, the one from Sonoma." My hands trembled just slightly as I reached for the glass. "You shouldn't have," I said. But of course he had. He poured with a flourish, then raised his own glass in a little toast. "To your health," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I raised my glass too, but I didn't drink it. I tilted it just enough to let him think I had. Then I set it down, excusing myself to get the napkins. It wasn't always like this. I used to trust him. I used to believe that no matter what choices Andrew made, the love between a mother and son would keep us tethered, even when he stole from me, even when he disappeared for months during his darker years, even when he forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. But lately, he's been different. Too different. 3 weeks ago, he showed up out of the blue, flowers in one hand, pie in the other. "Just wanted to check in on my favorite lady," he said, hugging me tight. Since then, he's been around constantly. Grocery shopping, helping with bills, organizing my prescription bottles, things he never cared to do before. And then last week, I overheard a phone call. I was in the hallway, heading to the laundry room, when I heard his voice from the porch, low and clipped, the way he always spoke when he was hiding something. I stopped short behind the hallway wall. Her house is worth at least $350, probably more, and she's got life insurance, trust me. It's all lining up. I don't remember what I dropped, a sock maybe, or the dryer sheet, but I remember how my stomach dropped with it. That call changed everything. I stood there frozen, barely breathing, until the line went quiet. That night, I sat in my bedroom, holding the old photograph of Thomas and me on our wedding day. He'd passed 10 years ago, and I'd kept this house, our house, exactly as we built it. It wasn't just brick and wood, it was a memory I was still living in. But Andrew didn't see that. He didn't see his mother. He saw a deed, a dollar sign, a way out of debt. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel safe around my own child. I thought I was still his mother. Turns out I was just a number to erase. If this story speaks to you already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You never know who might need to hear it. Let's keep going. The first time he embarrassed me in front of others, it felt like a mistake. The second time, I knew it was intentional. It was a Sunday after church. A few of my oldest friends, people I'd known since before Andrew was born, had come over for lunch. Andrew had arranged everything. That should have been my first warning. He poured coffee, refilled water glasses, and even brought out the lemon squares I'd made. "Mom's still got her baking touch," he joked, patting my shoulder, "even if she can't remember which day it is." The room fell into an awkward silence. I forced a smile, pretending not to hear the nervous chuckles. Later, when I mentioned wanting to sell a few pieces of jewelry to finally take that trip to New England I dreamed of, he cut in before I could finish. "Don't worry about her finances," he told everyone. "I'm helping her now. She doesn't really have the capacity to manage those details." I stared at him, stunned. He just kept smiling like he was doing me a favor. That night, I found him in my study, phone in hand, photographing my bank statements. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't even jump. "Just organizing some of your records. You've let things get a little chaotic, Mom." My records were always in order, always. My husband used to joke that I could find a receipt from 1973 faster than the grocery list. The next day, I went to the post office to ask about my missing mail, bank statements, medical letters, bills. The clerk looked uncomfortable. "Your son requested redirection," he mumbled, "said it was for your safety." My safety. I sat on a cold metal bench at the bus stop afterward, heart pounding. What else had he taken from me without asking? A visit to the bank confirmed more than I was ready for. The manager, Mr. Duncan, had known me and Thomas for decades. His face was careful as he spoke. "Your son asked about home equity loans last week using your house as collateral. He also inquired about power of attorney." I gripped the edge of the desk. "Did he withdraw anything?" "No," he said. "We didn't approve anything without your signature, but he tried." The pit in my stomach widened. Back at home, I checked the drawer where I kept my medication. The labels were the same, but the pills inside, different sizes, different shapes. I hadn't noticed before because Andrew had taken over sorting them for me. That night, I called my doctor. "Margaret," he said, his voice filled with concern. "I told Andrew to bring you in weeks ago. Your test results were concerning." "What results?" A pause. Then, "He said you were confused, that you weren't in a state to process medical information on your own." I couldn't breathe. He'd stolen my prescriptions, my voice, my very right to know about my own body. But it didn't end there. A week later, Eleanor came over, my oldest friend, a woman who had held my hand at Thomas's funeral and knew every line on my face better than I did. "I need help," I told her, "and I think my son is trying to erase me." I couldn't say the words, but I didn't have to. She nodded once. "Then we fight smart." She returned the next morning with her grandson, Leo, a shy 22-year-old studying cybersecurity. He brought tiny black cameras, no bigger than buttons. By the time he was done, there were eyes in the kitchen light fixture, in the bookshelf, by the medicine cabinet. "I'll stream everything to a private server," Leo explained. "Grandma and I will monitor it." Then Eleanor brought Barbara Lane, a retired attorney who once specialized in elder law, the kind of woman who read fine print like bedtime stories. Barbara didn't sugarcoat anything. "He's manipulating your finances, controlling your medical care, and isolating you. We need to act quickly." Over the next 3 days, we built what Barbara called a quiet fortress. We opened a new bank account, drafted a new will with clear terms and protections. Leo installed a safe in my basement for documents and evidence, and we created a simple code. If I ever felt threatened, I would text Eleanor something about my knitting pattern. That would be the signal to call the police. That night, I stood in my kitchen watching the light reflect off the wine glass I hadn't touched. My house was quiet, too quiet, and still I felt watched, because I was. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel helpless. I wasn't just waiting anymore. I'd spent my whole life protecting my son from the world, from himself, from the consequences of his own choices. Now, for the first time, I was protecting myself. It was a Thursday night. Rain tapped gently against the windows, just loud enough to remind me I was alive. I set the table with the good china, Thomas's favorite. I even lit 2 candles. Not for romance, of course, but for the illusion of warmth. If Andrew noticed anything odd, the entire plan could collapse. At exactly 6:00 p.m., he arrived with a bottle of wine and a white box tied with gold ribbon. "Special night?" I asked, trying to sound amused. He kissed my cheek. "Every night with you is special, Mom." His breath smelled faintly of spearmint, not quite strong enough to cover the stress beneath. I led him to the dining room, careful to angle the chairs where the hidden camera had a clear view. "You've been on my mind a lot lately," he said, uncorking the bottle with exaggerated care. "I've been thinking about your future. Assisted living might take the pressure off you, off me too, honestly." He poured 2 glasses. Mine was fuller. "To your health," he smiled again. I raised my glass and gave a small nod, pretending to take a sip. I'd rehearsed the sleight of hand for weeks. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I toyed with my pasta, never letting the glass leave my hand. When he wasn't looking, I poured tiny sips into the paper napkin on my lap. My heart thudded louder than the thunder outside. "You know," I said gently, "I was looking at old photos this morning. Remember the camping trip to Lake Willow? You were 10, and your father taught you to fish." For a moment, something softened in his face. "He spent hours with me that weekend," Andrew said, "teaching me how to tie flies, how to be patient." "He loved you," I said. "We both did." He looked away. "Funny way of showing it." I let the silence stretch just long enough. "What do you mean?" Andrew swirled his wine. "He always wanted me to be someone I wasn't. You too, in your way." I kept my tone light. "We wanted you to be safe, happy." "No," he snapped, then softened his voice again. "You wanted me to be him, the responsible one, the strong one." "You were strong," I said. "You just lost your way for a while." He laughed bitterly. "I never had a chance. You both judged me before I could even grow into anything." There it was, resentment, decades deep. In my earpiece, I heard Detective Wilkins's voice, steady, calm. "You're doing great. Start asking about the money, about his plans." I nodded, more to myself than him. "Andrew, what's really going on?" I said softly. "All this sudden care, the visits, the wine, the talk about assisted living? Is this about money?" His smile dropped. "I know about Martin Costa," I continued. "I know you're in deep." He stared at me, expression unreadable. "I overheard your call," I said, voice steady. "About the house, the insurance." Andrew's face went pale, then hard. "You don't understand. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." He leaned forward, voice low and urgent. "They're going to hurt me if I don't pay. I needed a solution. You're sitting on $350 grand and a policy worth $250,000. I said nothing. "Do you know what it's like to owe your life to someone who doesn't care if you make it out alive?" "Yes," I whispered. "I do now." His jaw clenched. "It was never supposed to go this far." I tilted my head. "How far was it supposed to go?" In the earpiece. "Push now. Let him talk." I placed my hands flat on the table. "Andrew, have you been putting something in my wine?" He didn't answer, just stared. "My pills? My food? Were you planning to let nature take its course?" He laughed, too loud, too long. "You really want to know the truth?" I nodded once. "Fine," he said. "Yes, I've been adding antifreeze, just a little at a time. Enough to look like heart failure. You're 78, people wouldn't question it." Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "And the pills?" I asked. He shrugged. "Switched them, diluted the doses, slowed your heart, messed with your balance. It was working. You even started forgetting things, just like I told them." "And the gas leak?" His eyes flashed wide, then narrowed. "That was a backup. You shouldn't have known about that." The wine glass in his hand trembled. "You were going to kill me." He leaned forward. "I was going to survive, for once." Suddenly, the front door burst open. "Andrew Myers, you're under arrest for attempted elder harm, financial fraud, and criminal endangerment," said Detective Wilkins, stepping into the dining room, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Andrew dropped the wine glass. It shattered across the hardwood floor. "What? No, this is insane!" They cuffed him calmly. "It's all recorded. We heard everything." As they led him toward the door, he turned to me. "You set me up." I met his eyes. For the first time, I didn't see my son. I saw a stranger in the skin of someone I had once rocked to sleep. "No," I said softly. "For the first time, I let you face the truth." The door closed behind them. I stayed seated at the table, the wine untouched before me, the candles still flickering. My hands were shaking. I had done it, but there was no triumph, only grief. The sentencing took place 7 months after that night in my dining room, 15 years. That's what the judge gave Andrew, along with mandatory rehabilitation and psychiatric treatment. I was there in the courtroom when the gavel fell. He didn't look at me, and I didn't cry. Not then. Back home, the silence felt different. Not empty, not frightening, just mine again. In the weeks that followed, I returned to something I hadn't touched in years: my garden. The roses, brittle and forgotten through the seasons of chaos, began to bloom again under my care. I didn't plant anything extravagant, just enough to remind myself that life grows, even when it's been neglected. Eleanor came by often, sometimes with Leo, sometimes with Barbara. We drank tea, pulled weeds, laughed more than we cried. Together, we founded the Second Bloom Project, a small initiative for elderly women who've suffered financial or emotional exploitation from people they trusted. We've already helped 3 women find legal protection and safe housing. That, too, is healing. I reconnected with my niece, Rachel. Her children now fill this house with the kind of laughter I thought I'd never hear again. Leo installed a new security system just in case, but I rarely think about it. I feel safe now, and not because of locks or laws, because I know who I am again. 2 months ago, a letter arrived. The handwriting stopped me before I even opened it. "Dear Mom," it began, "I'm 8 months sober. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm facing the truth now, the same way Dad always told me I'd need to." I read it twice, then folded it and placed it in the drawer with Thomas's photo. Sometimes it's not age that makes us vulnerable. It's love, misdirected. But I've learned, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from what broke you. And I'm still healing, still growing, still blooming, even in winter. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, leave a comment below or share your own. We heal better when we heal together. Until next time, take care of your heart and your peace.